A lot of the fans of Flats Class knew that I've been a Tampa Bay guy for over 50 years. It's hard for me to say that because I don't feel like I'm that old. But we moved to St. Petersburg in 1966 when I was a year old. I have fished those waters all the way up into the last 3 years where I made a move to the Nature Coast. So going back to Tampa Bay and getting reacquainted with my old neighborhood, it was an experience because a lot of things had changed as far as how you had to get anywhere in the truck. But on the water, nothing had changed. Well, as you can see, I'm fishing with Captain Dustin Pack in Tampa Bay and my buddy behind me. And we're here, it's cold as heck. I mean, I'm wearing gloves in South Florida. Now, these aren't my current stomping grounds anymore. I grew up here, and I feel as if I have fished every blade of grass in Tampa Bay in 50 years. But I'm here with the heir apparent to this area, Captain Dustin Pack, and we're gonna try some new stuff today.
Yep.
But we're gonna try some old techniques that are tried and true, especially when it's cold and it's clear, and we don't really know how we're gonna deal with it because it was literally freezing last night. So we're dressed warm, we're gonna make a run, and hopefully we're gonna catch a few fish.
We got sun, we got, for the most part, clear skies. Should be doing some good sight fishing, and hopefully the fish shouldn't be too cold.
Now, everyone knows Dustin's a fly guide. We're gonna fish a light tackle technique that's just as effective. It's just like fishing flies. We're fishing the Ned rigs today.
Yep, small and finesse fishing.
That's right. One of the attractions to fishing with Dustin was the fact that he was a push-poling fly guide. His style of fly fishing and my style of micro Ned fishing was going to be very similar. And I felt like, hey, who better to fish with than a fly guide when it comes to Ned rig fishing?
See you back here, buddy? To your left. It's a big thing here in Tampa with leading a fish. You know, our fish see a lot of pressure, a lot of tower boats. You know, being a fly fishing guide here, we're the minority. So it's very important to lead those fish, see them moving down a line, get that fly or that lure out in front of where you think they're gonna be, and a lot of times they'll turn. I didn't like that. They'll turn and you gotta regroup and get that fly back where it needed to be. And a lot of times with these cold fronts like we just had, these fish just would not eat, and we were trying and trying, and it wasn't for a lack of shots, it wasn't for a lack of CA putting it where it needed to be, it was just these fish had lockjaw.
Eat it. Eat it. Come on. Oh. He's following it. He's following it. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, he bumped it.
Gotta be kidding me.
God dog it. That's a big hail, no?
Nice, buddy. Oh.
You believe that? So when you're challenged, and I'm not using the word challenge lightly, when you're challenged with conditions with very little tide movement, water's colder, about 6 or 7 degrees colder than it should be, because it's been a cold winter, and then you have clear water conditions with bluebird skies, you gotta look for one or two things that'll help you. One is wind. Wind, if you can set the wind up where it pushes water through little cuts or down shorelines and you can figure that out, that's one thing that will help you. The second thing that will help you is the salooner period. And it was like a light switch. We struggled, and soon as that moon, we could see that there was like 3 fingers between the horizon and the moon, and we knew it was setting. Now fish were coming out and their heads were tipped down and their tails were up a little bit and they were just kind of floating like a bird, like a heron looking for something to move. Then when I would throw or present the Ned rig, it was a home run.
There he is. There we go.
You know, when you lead a fish in Tampa Bay, you almost have to throw it in another area code. Felt like I had a really fast wide receiver that you have to lead them by 20 yards.
Tom Brady to Mike Evans.
Yeah, good specimen. And what did he fall for? Yoga pants. This is one of our buddies
on the Z-Man team, Brian Latimer's bait, but the Ned rig. And when you see this, Dustin, you are gonna be shocked because it looks like nothing.
Sometimes that's what it takes around here.
Gorgeous fish. Respectable.
Got my Benny Blanco net.
Yeah, there you go.
Beautiful fish, see?
Good job. What a gorgeous fish.
Beautiful. Typical, you know, 23, 24 inch
Tampa red.
Tampa Bay redfish.
You know, years ago, Lefty Cray would say, if you want to get good at bone fishing, come to Tampa Bay and go red fishing.
Exactly.
And those words still are true.
Exactly. Only getting more true.
They're getting more true.
More
every
true.
day.
But it still happens.
It still happens.
I'd say one of the most redeeming qualities about Captain Dustin Pack is the fact that he cares. He's part of the Tampa Bay Waterkeepers. He's extremely involved in doing so many little things for the bay. And that's why Tampa Bay looks so healthy and clean. I mean, it should look a lot worse, but it doesn't. And it's because of guides that care about it, and other folks too that care about water quality. And Dustin is definitely that guy. It's refreshing for someone like myself to know that someone's pulling me around and they're the care givers for this environment that someone else is going to inherit, because I'm only going to be able to fish it so much longer. I'm a conservationist that happens to be a fishing guide. You know, my first priority is to help this estuary. For a place that is growing so much, it takes everybody to care about the estuary and about the waterway, and to be a conservationist first, and to just care. Just pick up trash on the ground, you know, talk to your legislators about things that are happening in government or whatever it is that you think is wrong with environmental damage. Anything, you know, just picking up trash is just a huge gesture and it helps out immensely. I mean, one person, you think that's just one piece of trash. Well, you know, if 1,000 people think that way, there's 1,000 pieces of trash out of our waterway, out of our estuary. And it pays dividends in the long run. And you know, we owe it to this area, this state to do that. With as much damage as the human race and as much damage as we've done as people to this state, to this country, to this world, whatever it is, I think we do owe that to this area, and just to keep it preserved for a long time.
Come on, he wants it.
What a feed, see? Great, buddy. What a feed.
Back to yoga pants. Back to yoga pants.
He wanted that thing too.
You could tell he was lit. I mean, he was totally lit for it.
Yep. Nose down. You put that thing right where it needed to be, and he followed it the whole way.
And it stayed on the bottom. Do you know? I mean, when it stays on the bottom where he can trap it, that's kind of key. You got the Ned rig right in his face. I mean, on a tough day like today, that's what you want to see.
Beautiful fish.
Yeah, that was basically a dark olive. That is the Pro Finesse from Z-Man, with that yoga pants color that Brian Latimer came up with for us on the bass side, but dark. Another one of your suggestions.
Yep.
Switch off the white. Good deal.
That was the epitome of teamwork too. Seeing them and
being able to get the right angle.
Perfect cast and
woo.
And a bear hug.
And a bear hug.
When it gets tough, you have no water movement, you have cold water at that, because it was 39 degrees that morning. That's why you started late. I mean, this is your answer. This is all you can catch them on.
When it's tough, the Z-Man Ned rig really does come through for you.
That small finesse.
Smaller finesse baits really do a good job.
That's the beautiful thing too. I love that, just going down this shoreline, seeing that fish from you know,
So
50
far
yards
away.
away, whatever it was. He works slowly up to him, and he's nose down and acts like a redfish is supposed to act, and follows that thing and hammers it.
The best part about that one is his body attitude before we got to him was already tipping.
Exactly.
Notice that? That was the one that wasn't laying there. He was actually tipping.
All right, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the tackle that we utilized with Captain Dustin Pack today. It's pretty simple. It's these micro jigs, and these are what we call the Ned rigs. And I like to call them the salty Neds because I don't use all the profiles that are standard in the Ned rig lineup. I modify some of these baits and try some new things. So I've got this little TRD bugs, and this is the Bama bug color. It's a very cool little bait, a creature bait that looks like a crab. This is actually a 4-inch bait. This is the shrimps, the jerk shrimps. I cut it down so it's small. I learned this little trick from a guy named George Goodson. Here's the standard TRD that we use with the light wire finesse style mushroom heads. But even that didn't get it done. I had to go to a pro mushroom heads. And then this is something I learned from my buddy Dave Sobel. He cuts a trout trick tail down so that it's less than almost 2 inches long, and it has all this action, and this is killer for catching snook, trout, sight fish, and redfish because it's so light when it hits the water. But you gotta have the right rod and reel setup. Now what we caught every fish on was the Pro Shrooms. Now the Pro Shrooms is a little heavier wire hook, and instead of the bait standing up like this, the bait lays down like that and you drag it on the bottom. So what I did is I put about 3.5 feet of 15-pound fluorocarbon. I tied it with a reverse Albright, and that's connected to 8-pound Power Pro Super Slick V2. Now I put all of this on a rod that I'd have a little bit of, give, but I could still have enough backbone to fight some of those larger fish. So this is actually a medium action 7-foot rod in the Terramar Double X. A lot of folks like to throw these jigs on the medium light, but this is the 7-foot medium. And I've got it paired up with the Twin Power 3000. This is the 3000 XG, and it has just a buttery. There's so much adjustment in this drag, and when you're fishing, especially with the finesse style heads, you've got to have those drags that will slip really easy or you'll bend the hook flat out. But that's really the simple diminutive type system that we use to catch these fish.
Acting right is right. Yes! Great job, C.
Boy, you see him get fired up? Whew, dude, he ran out of there. He ran out of there. I mean, just as soon as he saw the movement, he was like a hound dog on a trail. I don't know, maybe at the next Z-Man Summit, I might have to buy Brian Latimer a beer or two.
They love that thing right now.
Yoga pants color is the color.
Love that thing.
They love it. Oh. Now that is how you guys are supposed to behave.
Try to stake it down here.
Boy, if this one grows into his spot, he's gonna be huge, dude. He's got a spot about the size of a silver dollar. For those of you that are too young to know what a silver dollar is, you might want to Google that one. It means it's a big spot.
Right in the button.
Whew. Man, what a fish.
Right in the button.
Nice fish.
all my life, living there in Pinellas County and fishing Hillsborough and Manatee quite a bit, it always seemed kind of quiet. It never seemed like there was that many people that lived there. But in the last 15, 20 years, so many people have basically just been drawn like a magnet to the Tampa area that now you have 1 million people in Pinellas, you have 1.5 million in Hillsborough, you probably have 600,000 or 700,000 living in Manatee County. So you've got several million people in a metropolitan area, yet you can still fish areas in Tampa Bay where you feel like you're far removed from any urban environment.
Today we were able to get lost in what you would think is the Everglades. You know, there's Mangrove Island here, Mangrove Island there, bird action, mullets jumping, you know, and everywhere you look, a 360 view is mangroves. You would never know unless you pulled out of that zone or motored out of that zone and saw on the horizon the big sky rises of where we were. You would never know that you were in Tampa Bay. This certain area hasn't changed much.
No, not at all.
Downtown Tampa and St. Pete has changed a lot. And it can be a challenging fishery, but it's not for a lack of fish.
No.
There's plenty of fish here.
We have been seeing plenty of fish today.
You gotta be kind of on your game, know what you're doing, and it'll prevail.
Oh,
You
yeah.
do real well here.
Makes you better. Some of the best anglers ever and on any tours or just personalities in general have come out of Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay is one of those fisheries that you got to understand how to catch fish to be good here and to do it consistently.
We're pulling in you know, less than 2 feet of water, looking for fish on a shoreline that are in 8 inches of water, 10 inches of water, whatever it might be. CA puts that lure in front of that fish follows it all the way to the boat, and he ate it right under our feet. At the boat.
I didn't even want to breathe,
I
man.
know, I was just sitting back there with my
I did not even want to
fingers
breathe. He was so hot for it, he didn't know what he wanted to do. God, Dustin, that is exciting stuff. Even for someone who's done it 1,000 million times.
It never
man.
gets old.
It never gets old.
At the boat.
He must have followed it 15 feet.
Solid fish too.
Good night. I mean, a stud. Oh, man, he hit that. I saw him come out and he trailed it, and then he looked like he was going to turn off, and I shook it one time, and then he got fired up and he kept going after it.
He does not like you.
You know, you got to throw a Ned rig, you got to have a light stick, and this is a really light stick to get that distance. You know, because I'm throwing 6-pound Power Pro, that's it. 6-pound Power Pro, and I basically have 15-pound fluorocarbon on here. And plenty of it. Man, that was an eat of eats. And I thought he was going to hit the chine of the Marquesa before we caught him. And he just had no idea we were here. I mean, that is the epitome of polling quietly.
Like you said, it never gets old.
Never gets old. I mean,
sometimes you got to cast to them 100 feet away. Sometimes they eat 10 feet away.
He obviously wanted to have a pair of yoga pants today. Man, that is exciting stuff. Never gets old.
Been the key.
Been nice to be back in the old neighborhood catching fish like this. In my opinion, I say this one sends us home, Chief. I think this is a good fish to call it a day. It's always nice to get the day over with a catch, you know?
I love it. Still got a beautiful day, some wind, and truckload of fish.
Yeah. And we can beat the really rough weather back. Look at that little bait there. You'd think nothing in the world would eat something like that.
But that does.
But that does.
Does he have a spot on that side, on the other side?
No, he's spotless.
Pretty.
Spotless red. How nice. Tampa Bay still being good to me.
It's a team effort, you know, me on the back and then having somebody on the bow that can cast like that and can maneuver the lure or the fly like that, like it needs to, or the fish thinks that it's real. I mean, it's amazing. It's awesome. That's why I do this. That's why, I mean, everything about it just, I still get goosebumps every time it happens. It can be the 1000th time we've caught a redfish on the boat or a snook on the boat or whatever it is. It's exciting every time. It never gets old. And what we did today was textbook what I love to do here in Tampa Bay, and that's feed fish in shallow water. And everything came together like it was supposed to, and it was awesome.
Wow. I think that one sends us home for chicken wings and beers.
I love that.
Chicken wings and beers. That's a good way to end a day like today.